For one of my projects I needed to create something like a magic sphere. After a lot of experimenting I ended up with this effect. I spent a lot of time refining it and now I want to share how I made it using VFX graph. In the Unity project I've already created a VFX graph. Now I'll place it in the scene and open it. I'll adjust the layout a bit to make the workflow easier to see. First, I'll create a flickering point at the center. I connect a constant spawn rate node and set it to 16. I set capacity to 4 and add a set size over life node, which will take random values between 0.07 and 0.1. This node must have a uniform value for the random attribute. Now I connect a set lifetime node and set its value to 0.3. For the set color over life, I'll create a separate property and set the gradient from dark purple to a brighter high emission purple. The color will be transparent at the beginning and end. For the output particle, I'll set the blend mode to additive to make it brighter and use the default particle as the texture. I'll set the face camera position and multiply the color by a random value between 2 and 4. Next I'll create floating particles with a spawn rate of 32 and set capacity to 32 as well. It will have a random lifetime between 0.5 and 1, and the start position will be distributed inside a sphere with a radius of 0.3. To give the particles a floating behavior, I'll use turbulence with a random intensity between 0.5 and 1, drag set to 2 and frequency set to 100. The color over life will be the same as the core. The size will be very small, between 0.01 and 0.03, and it will decrease over time following this curve. To create the sphere we'll need this texture, and now I'll show you how to make it. I'll create it in Illustrator. Using the ellipse tool I draw a circle and set its stroke to white with a size of 7. Next I add another larger stroke and apply Gaussian blur to make it glow. Then I add a new fill and set it to a radial gradient. The center will have a fully transparent white, while the outer edge will be solid white. I adjust the gradient to create a hollow effect inside the circle. Next, I import the texture into Unity and continue creating the effect. I need to create a sprite and lead shader graph with additive blending mode and support VFX graph enabled. In this shader graph, I'll multiply time by a float parameter that can range from 0 to 1, which I'll name distortion speed. I'll use the resulting value to offset the gradient noise. I'll set the noise scale as a separate parameter, which can range from 0 to 10. Then, I'll blend my texture with the gradient noise using the linear dodge blending mode. To set the color, I'll use a color parameter, multiply it by the blended result, and pass it as the base color. For transparency, I'll use the alpha channel of the original texture. Now I need to connect the shader graph to the VFX graph. To do this, I'll make sure that experimental operators blocks are enabled in Unity settings. Then I'll convert the output particle to a shader graph. After that, I need to select the newly created shader graph by dragging it into the corresponding field. I'll also create two parameters, sphere color and distortion scale, and connect them to the graph. Next, I'll set the size to a pretty large value. To make everything work, I only need one particle that stays on the screen. For this, I'll use a single burst with count set to 1. Now that the sphere is ready, it would be great to add a pulsating effect. For this, I'll add just a few particles with a lifetime of 2. I'll control the pulse brightness using the sphere emission parameter. I'll multiply it by the current particle lifetime and then multiply the result by the assigned sphere color. For the output particle, I use the same texture as the sphere, but at a slightly larger size. I'll also multiply its color over life by a very transparent gradient. And now it's time for the most exciting part of this effect, making the particles move in a spiral trajectory. For this part, I'll set spawn rate to 128 and capacity to 512. The particles will be generated at the vertices of a cube. I'll slightly squash the cube vertically, allowing the particles to fit better within the surrounding sphere. I'll set the particle size to very small, but their lifetime will be much longer. To make the particles move in a circle, I apply a cross product of their current position with a vector 0, 1, 0. Then I blend the result with their velocity from direction and speed, setting the speed to 0.5. Next, I use a sphere attractor with a very small radius, which gradually pulls the particles towards the center of the sphere over time. I use the same color gradient as in the other parts of this graph. And finally, I just need to multiply size over life using this curve. That's it, our magic sphere effect is ready. You can experiment with color, speed or particle sizes to create your own unique look. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and have fun creating.